Hi, my name's Cathy Skipper and I'm a menopause midwife. Welcome to my channel, The Alchemy of Menopause. This is the fourth video in a series of 4 videos on the 4 dimensions of the sovereign woman. This is the last video and actually is going to be talking about the spiritual dimension of the sovereign woman and her connection to the collectivity. So when we're thinking about the anatomy of our psyches and all the dimensions of ourself that go through menopause, there's the physical body, there's the emotional body, there's the mental body, there's the spiritual body, and then there's this, in Jungian terms, it's called the collective unconscious, but it's our connection to the collective. We're part of the collective and the collective is part of us, in a sense. I'm going to try and explain these two things, the spiritual self and our connection to the collective, in the best way I can. It's not as easy as the emotional, mental, and physical aspects of the psyche or the dimensions of the sovereign woman, because they're less tangible and they're more sort of individual. Each person learns to navigate their spiritual bodies, their spiritual self, and their connection to the collective depending on their uniqueness, depending on their authenticity, depending on their ancestral stories, depending on their stories. So it's very, very individual. But I'll try and give you the best examples that I can. So with the spiritual body, which is a very, very subtle aspect of the psyche, I'm also looking at the Queen of Wands as the sort of archetype of that part or that dimension of ourselves. And so the physical body acts as a kind of bridge between the emotional, physical, and mental bodies, which are denser and we're much more familiar with. And this very, very subtle spiritual aspect of the psyche is like a bridge between these denser parts and the collective. So that's one of its main functions, is that when we start to navigate and become conscious of ourselves as spiritual beings, we instantly start naturally to become conscious of ourselves within the collective and how what's happening to us is reflected in the collective and vice versa. So in terms of the Queen of Wands as a sort of archetype that represents and can guide us through this aspect of the self or this dimension of the sovereign woman, the suit of the suit of wands is really about energy. There's a lot of energy and a lot of power and a lot of deep knowing gut feelings to do with this queen. She really goes or motivates herself or manifests from this deep, powerful place. And here I want to make the link between her and the heat and hot flashes that happens during perimenopause. So in a way, once we've really integrated this spiritual dimension and we've got the help of the Queen of Wands, we have gone from, oh shit, I'm having a hot flash, this is terrible, I have to take my clothes off, I'm really hot, I can't deal with it, get these away from me, let me have medicine, to, wow, this is power. This is really a rising, heating energy. What can this be? This is the fierce goddess of heat. This is my Kundalini spiritual power. And you can look, I've done a video some way back. It's called Menopause and Kundalini, something like that. And it's about all this. But this Queen of Wands has embraced the power of the heat that comes for many women during menopause. She's embracing it as her torch of life, as her spiritual power, and her sovereignty. So she is often referred to as the witch, the Queen of Wands. It's the witch card. And if you think back to what happened in Europe to many older women, I mean, it happened to a lot of women, a few men, and many of the women who were burnt during the burning times were older women. So there was that idea of, instead of allowing their power and this fire within them, the fierce goddess of heat, as in Buddhism, to come through them and be their spiritual power, they were burned on the stake. So the spiritual maturity of a woman as she goes into this sovereign period of her life, which is between the ages of 45, and 70 about, is about really working with this heating, passionate, powerful, spiritual energy. And in a way, she's gained a certain mastery. Her long journey, her deep work, her commitment, her integration of the physical, emotional, intellectual self has resulted in this access to her spiritual self. She knows how to navigate this part of herself, um, and she's done this through the long journey that she's been on. And in some of the tarot card images, you can see her, she's virtually sitting on a throne of fire. So she's the woman who knows how to work with that heat. She's not moaning about it, she's not wanting medicine for it, she is using it. And heat is a big part of not just perimenopause and menopause, but beyond. Some women have hot flashes for all their life. And heat, what I've noticed, I'm 10 years out of menopause. I'm probably 6 years from all the, you know, um, changes, the physical changes, 6 years out, 10 years from the beginning. And what I've noticed is that I still have a very, very different relationship to the heat in my body. I heat up a lot more. I have sort of these power surges of heat that aren't the hot flashes that I had in perimenopause. They're different, but heat is a big part of life as a sovereign woman. And so, working with this heat, with the torch, with the flame, with the power, with the passion, with the ignition of that fire, is part of our spirituality. It's not like all love and light, it's a powerful energy. That's Kundalini. Um, and they're also in the Queen of Wands tarot cards. You often see there's a feline. Sometimes it's a black cat, sometimes it's a leopard. And there's this feline energy in the spiritual dimension of the sovereign woman. Excuse me. And that female energy, feline energy, is about, cats and felines, they're very good at transmuting energy. They will sit where no one else sits because it's a heavy energy or a dark energy or some kind of energy that does need transmuting, and they'll sit and lie there until it's transmuted. That's what they do well. They like the dusk and the night, and they like the shadow areas because they know that's where personal power and growth is found. So this is all the spirituality of the feminine. As I said, it's not all about love and light, and it's this deep feminine. The feminine is to do with the darkness. The baby grows in the womb. The seeds grow in the dark of the soil before they arise into the light of day. There's an aspect of the dark goddess, of the darkness in this spirituality, of Kali, of life and death, and an acknowledgement of that in this spiritual aspect. Um, yeah, and the Queen of Cups is really here to guide us, to help us with this self-empowerment, this inner power, um, this reclamation of our feminine self. And she is that bridge from us to the collective. So what she helps us understand is that what we go through, what happens on a micro level when we're really working with the deep feminine and the spirituality of the feminine and the sovereignty of what it is to be feminine, which is really the true journey of perimenopause and beyond. She shows us that instantly, once we become aware and we open up to this, there is a connection to the collective. So what happens to us and the feminine within us and how we heal this is healing the collective and healing our mother line, and seeing that our mother line is part of who we are is healing the collective. And what happens in the collective, our own wounding with the inner tyrant, with the masculine, is we see that it is a mirror of what's happening in the world. The way that we treat nature, which is the feminine principle, is the way that we treat our own bodies, is the way that we see the feminine. So this connection, this bridge between our spirituality and the collective is huge. And that's why I wanted to go on to the Empress, because as I said at the beginning, within the anatomy of the psyche, who we are, all of us, there is this collective aspect. So I didn't want to leave it out. So just before I go on to that part, one way of connecting with the spirituality in a sort of symbolic way is to make yourself an altar. Make yourself an altar for your journey towards sovereignty, the things that are important for you, power pieces, light a candle every day, work with your altar, something from your mother line, something for each aspect of the psyche or the dimensions of the sovereignty that we have seen through these videos. Um, Make sure you do spend time in the imaginal realm on guided journeys. You can find them on the internet, you can find them in my work. Many women are offering them, but journeys where you start to go inwards more and um, honor and really see the imaginal realm. It's not the imagination, it's the imaginal realm as this important part of yourself. And also a spiritual relationship with nature. Go into nature on your own. I used to go in, not so much here because I live in nature, so I'm here all the time. I live at 9,000 feet up a mountain. But when I was, learning about my sovereignty and myself as a woman, I'd go into nature at night when I was living in France and find my way at night and hear the animals and sit and light a little fire. And so really connect with these parts of yourself through these different ways. Okay, so just to touch on the collective and the Empress card in the tarot. So the collective is really the blueprint of humanity. You could say it's the cloud, like the cloud on your computer, and it holds everything that ever was and ever will be. And we are connected to the collective. We have to be. And there cannot be another way because we make up the collective. And in a way, if you imagine if you were your computer and your computer just opened and the whole of the cloud was downloaded onto your computer would explode. You couldn't take it. And it's the same with the collective unconscious. We can't have access at the same time to all of the collective because we have psychosis. We wouldn't be able to take it. So our psyche is very wise and very well created. And so we have access to the collective through our ancestral stories, through our family stories, through our culture, through our interests. We sort of open doors to the collective, we filter it through. Um, and it's transpersonal. So it has these universal aspects to it. The archetypes are part of the collective, which are blueprints. So the archetype of the Empress is what we're talking about now, which is a sort of blueprint of an aspect of the feminine journey. And so let's have a look at the Empress. So she really has encompassed the other queens that we've seen in this little series of videos. She is the creativity of the self in all our forms, and she suddenly has become more whole. So she can bring our ideas, they don't just stay as ideas. Our emotions and our desires don't just stay as emotions and desires. She brings it all together into fruition. She is mature enough. She knows herself enough. She is connected to all these parts of herself. They work together. So she's deeply connected to her own nature, to the natural world, to the cycles of life, to her own cycles. And so she has this ability to express herself, to bring what's within into fruition. And so that's really what's important because ultimately, the journey of perimenopause in the 21st century, in 2025, is not just an individual journey. We are being guided by a force greater than ourselves. We are being guided by the need for balance in the same way as we have this psyche that we've really been looking at, the 4 dimensions of the sovereign woman are aspects of the psyche. Well, the collective psyche, like our own psyche, is always looking for balance. So we're being influenced in our perimenopausal journey, in our becoming sovereign, in our learning about the true feminine. This is needed today collectively. It's not just for you. It's not just for your life. It's not just for you to be able to create something and feel better about yourself. It's for you to find your authentic self, because the world needs you to be in your authentic self. The world needs your feminine, deep, primordial, feminine empress self, the self that has been through the long journey, the self that has battled with herself, the self that has faced herself, the self that has faced her, not just her own shadow, but her motherline shadow, all these aspects. This is a huge journey. It's not just given, it's not a God given, it's a journey of commitment and work. But when we get there, when we get to the Empress, then we turn up. That's soi-même son danger, we say in French. To be oneself is where we're safe. She turns up as herself. She offers herself to the collective, to the world. And that resonance of a woman who has faced the most terrifying part of the feminine, the buried feminine, the denigrated feminine in herself, and reinstated her and found that compassion for her, that is the Empress. And she has a place in the world. I always say in my video, or I say often that, the whales, WHALES, have certain species of whales live for decades, like women, postmenopausal, and they are leaders of the pod, and they are peacemakers in their herd, and they are the wisdom keepers, and they enable the rest of the community of whales to live longer and live better. And that is the role of becoming mature, becoming sovereign during perimenopause and beyond. That is the role of you. That is the role of me. That is what is needed for the next 7 generations to have a world that is livable. That is the true meaning of perimenopause and beyond. That is the true meaning of the sovereign woman. So that is our connection to the collective, is when we stand up and our voice isn't just for us, isn't just for our families, isn't just for our communities, it is for the whole. And our voice resonates with the whole. So I thank you for listening. I hope this isn't too garbled. I hope you can make some sense of it. Leave me comments, ask me questions. We can start this as a conversation. Please subscribe to my channel, and don't forget my 180-page free workbook when you click the bio in this channel. Lots of love.